Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tuesday, June the 9th, 2026. It's 6 p.m. We're in the council chambers in the City Hall, City of Platteville, and I am calling the regularly scheduled meeting of the Common Council to order. Craig, we'll start with roll call.
Stephen Badger.
Here.
Kathy Kopp.
Here.
Tony McFall is excused. Barbara Doss.
Here.
Bob Gates.
Here.
Brian Wisnap.
Here.
Lynn Parrott.
Here. We have more than our share of feedback tonight for some reason. Well, I'm going to add, it's a pretty special day in Platteville today, so I'm going to ask Craig to come forward and Kaz to come forward, and we are going to have a ceremonial swearing in of our new city manager, who, by the way, tonight is accompanied by her family, husband Brendan, son Lincoln, who's waving, and Atlas, who is unable to wave because he's sleeping.
He's rocking.
He's
rocking.
He's
All right.
waving.
Jody, are you going to be taking a picture? Okay.
Just so if there's anybody listening. All right, you can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Kaz Muskie,
I, Kaz Muskie,
having been appointed to the office of city manager,
having
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
swear that I will support the state of Wisconsin
and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of my
I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
Speech. At this point in time, we generally give people a few minutes at the podium to say a few words.
Perfect. I don't want to hear a buzzard, so I'm going to make it short and sweet. So super excited to hit the ground running. We have an amazing team. Super excited to have the team, great elected officials to work with. There's so much momentum in the city of Platteville, and I am just super excited to carry that forward. So thank you, thank you.
Okay, good. All right, we'll move on into the next part of our agenda, which is the consideration of the consent agenda. The following items may be approved on a single vote, motion and vote due to the routine nature or previous discussion. Please indicate if you would like something for separate action. We have the council minutes from May 26th, regular meeting. Payment of bills, we have the financial report from May. Appointments to boards and commissions. Tonight I have appointments to the Tourism Commission of Julie Klein, Deb Jenny, Deb Rice, and Melanie Platt Gibson. Those terms began July 1. I have several other invitations out, and if anybody has a perchance to serve, certainly please contact me, contact Craig, stop in the office. It's not an onerous application process. Licenses, we have 1 and 2 year operator licenses to serve and sell alcohol, as are in your packet. We have a junk dealer license for Chandler's Salvage. We have the annual fermented malt beverage and intoxicating liquor license renewals. These happen annually. Do they renew the first of, I'm sorry, the 1st of June or the 1st of July?
July.
I guess we're in June, so it would be July. Yeah. All right. And then we have a fireworks permit for the 4th of July here in Platteville at dusk at Legion Field. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve all items listed under the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. We'll vote, Craig.
Stephen Badger.
Yes.
Kathy Kopp.
Yes.
Barbara Doss.
Yes.
Bob Gates.
Yes.
Brian Wisnap.
Yes.
Lynn Parrott.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next, we have citizens' comments, observations, and petitions, if any. It's also a time when we sometimes have announcements. So Bob, either Bob Gates or Bob Lau.
Yeah, I got something, Barb. Thank you. Due to an unexpected delay in arrival of 2
key pool filter. We have a small adjustment to our pool opening. The pool ribbon cutting ceremony has been rescheduled to Thursday, June 25th from 4 to 7, with the official ribbon cutting at 4:30. Admission is free for all attendees. Community members will have the opportunity to sign up for annual passes on site. The celebration will feature sweet treats courtesy of Vesperman's Ice Cream Truck with up to 200 free scoops, generously sponsored by Bob Hosen of Edward Jones. The Platteville Optimist Club will also be on hand serving complimentary hot dogs for guests of all ages.
Very good. All right, and so sometimes there's a kerfluffle, and this was a kerfluffle.
Small kerfluffle.
Yeah, how do you like that? It was a kerfluffle, but we'll move on, and the 25th, the rain date, the 25th is a Thursday night. The rain date is on the 26th.
25th. Yeah, 26, sorry, Friday, yes.
Friday is the rain date. Anybody else with any announcements or anything they want to?
Just a couple of things quick from out by the airport. There's a aerobatics competition Thursday through Sunday. There's going to be practice Thursday, Friday. You'll hear the airplanes out there, weather permitting. And then Saturday and Sunday, they're supposed to do some competition. Public's invited to come out. I think they're going to start around 9 or 10. This is not, just to clarify, this is not an air show, but if you want to go out and see some precision flying, these guys will be out there. And you'll hear them buzzing around. There was a lot of noise last year. It was a lot of fun. The other thing is there's a pancake breakfast later in July. And this is the annual one for the Scouts. They held it out at the airport, so keep that in mind. That's it.
Anything else? I would just remind everybody it's June is Dairy Month, and you have 2 opportunities this weekend to go to a June dairy breakfast, and both of them, while they're in different counties, are close by. So on Saturday, it is at the Pioneer Farm, the Lafayette County Dairy Breakfast, and on Sunday, it's in Lancaster. Majestic View Dairy is the host area. So 2 dairy breakfasts this weekend. Great opportunity to get out and pet a calf, I guess, or eat ice cream for breakfast, whatever. Okay, anything else? Then we'll go on to reports that were in our packet. Housing Authority Board, I'm not on it anymore. I had nothing to report, but Lynn, you're now on it. Anything?
Nothing else to report.
Okay. Museum Board, Steve?
I'm no longer on it. Tony is now on it.
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay. Police and Fire Commission, Kathy, you're still on this.
Yes,
Okay.
but I want to clarify, I need to verify the new meeting time because probably currently meeting.
Oh,
So
interesting. Okay. All right, so that'll be well, here comes here's somebody who could probably tell us if they're meeting, but let us go on. Water and Sewer Financial Report was in your packet for May. The financial report for May was in your packet. There were department progress reports in your packet. Any questions on any of those from anyone? Okay. The CIP quarterly status update. Renee isn't here, but do you want to say anything, Nicola?
Just to apologize that it came out a little bit later than usual, almost at the end of the second quarter. However, this was a training process as Renee is new to the city, so we were just working through how to put this together. You'll notice, especially those who have been on the council for a while, that we have substantially more projects ongoing than we ever have before. So, if we went back a few years, we would have maybe a page full. Now we have about 4 pages full. So,
Well, that means we're moving forward.
it means we're doing a lot. Yep.
Yep. Okay, and the other report in your packet were the TIF District Annual Report.
Yes.
And so, Nicola?
Thank you. So I did provide the council with a summary. I made a presentation a few years ago on TIF 101, and I thought it might be helpful, remembering that there were a few new members of the council, just to do a very quick review. Buzzers, keep them handy. So acronyms, TIF. TIF is the tax increment financing, and that is the tool. And TID is tax increment district, which is the boundary where the tool is used. Over 70% of Wisconsin cities and villages and some towns now use TIF. And TIF enables municipalities to capture tax revenue from growth in a defined area to benefit that defined area, which would be the TID district. So there are some pros and cons in a nutshell. The pro is that it provides TIF or tax increment financing, provides a way to attract development that would not otherwise occur. But the con, and it's a big one, is that the city itself is on the hook to cover TID costs if sufficient tax increment is not generated over the lifetime of the TIF. So it may be a 20-year TIF, it may have some extensions to its life and so forth. But ultimately, if some bad developer agreements are made and the city or the district ends up with a lot of debt, let's say, and doesn't generate the increment that's projected, then the city and not the other taxing jurisdictions are on the hook for that. So the mechanics, when a TID is created, the value of its parcels and any existing structures are measured and recorded. This establishes the base value. Property tax income from the base value continues to flow to the 4 taxing jurisdictions just as it did before the TID was created, and those are the city, the county, the school district, and the technical college. However, after creation, growth in the TID's value is tracked and recorded as TID increment value. This can be either economic growth or development growth through improvements of those parcels. Property tax income from the increment value or growth stays in the TID and does not go to the 4 taxing jurisdictions. So the question might be asked, why would a taxing jurisdiction be willing to, quote unquote, give up tax revenue on new development? And it's due to the but-for concept. But for the TID financing available to incentivize development, the development would not occur. So in other words, tax income is actually not being given up because without the TIF, the taxes would not be generated as the new development would not happen. A couple of FAQs that you may hear from residents of the city of Platteville. If my parcel is in a TID, will my property taxes go up? No, the tax rate is the same whether the property is in or out of a TID. Does being in a TID change how the property assessment is determined? Also no, property in a TID is assessed the same way as other taxable property. Okay, any questions on that brief overview? No? Good. So let's, well, not good in a bad way, but just I know everybody wants to get through the agenda. So let me switch over to the actual results from 2025 for the TIF districts, which is the item in the reports. So this would be the annual reports from last year, as well as the final audit for TID 5. And what I have done here as well is put together some projections, which I do each year, for these TIF districts. TID 5 actually closed, and so there's no projections for TIF 5, but I did include its annual report in the details, in the detailed reports behind the initial presentation. So in the presentation, you can see that the first page is the TID maps. This is a bit of an older map, so TID 5 is still on there in the top, kind of in the middle on the right-hand side in like a red color, red-orange color. But that's the TID that closed. So moving to TID 6, or page 2 of the presentation, you can see there that TID 6 is, the boundary on the map is shown in kind of an aqua blue neon color. TID 6 had a base value at creation of $7,740,000. I'm on page 3 now. And the value as of 2025 was $48,234,700. There was a 3% growth in the value from 24 to 25. And this is a mixed-use TIF, and we have extended it by 6 years. So on the next page, page 4, you can see a presentation of the actual results. So you've got the costs and the sources of funds and the uses of funds through 2024. That's the furthest to the left column. Then you have the next column is actual 2025. And then projections for 26 through essentially 2032. You may notice that the years 2031 and 2032 are kind of grayed out, and that's because we're anticipating that based on current projections, the TIF could close early. The TIF is projected to recover all its costs by 2030. That's with current values in the TIF and current increment. And there was a small deficit in 2025 that was covered by the general fund. So that was $9,926 in the second column. But that will be recovered as the TIF gets towards the end of its life. And then you'll see that we're projecting a small gain in 2026, $13,663, and then larger gains beyond that, particularly after all the debt is paid off starting in 2029. Any questions on TID 6? All right. Next is TID 7. So again, on the map, you can see the aqua boundary there. This is the downtown district. This TIF was created in 2006. Its dissolution date is 2033. Its base value when it was created was $29,515,000. It now has a value of $60,152,000. There was a decrease in value at the state level. So while the assessed value actually increased from year to year, the equalized value at the state level decreased. And that is often to do with timing. The timing of when the final municipal assessment report is filed and when the state takes that information into account. Okay, so looking from the left to the right of the page 7, you can see here that you have actual results in the second column. This year in 2025 was the last year that TID 5 shared its tax increment with TIF 7. So TID 5 was able to do this and then close. And you can see that it shared $1,096,000 with TID 7. And so the sharing of revenue from TID 5 to TID 7 has helped TID 7 build a considerable fund balance. So at the end of 2025, in the bottom row there, you see the fund balance was $1,537,000. And that fund balance will actually decrease for a while as TID 7 is continuing to pay off debt. But it is anticipated that the TID will be able to close early. Okay, the debt amortization actually extends beyond 2033, but there would be anticipated to be enough fund balance that the TID would be able to pay off its debt early and close. All right, so then the next TID is TID 9. Again, you can see the TID is shown by the aqua boundary. And this is the overlay district laid on top of TIDs 5 and 6. It was created in 2023. At the time it was created, its base value was $5,803,800. It already has a value of $16,527,900, which is a very healthy increase, and we're thankful for that. And looking at its financials, you can see that currently TID 9 is supporting PAYDIG, which is the Platteville Area Industrial Development Corporation. And so that has driven a deficit in 2025. But with that growth in the TID, its increment will substantially increase in 2026 from 12,000 to 178,000. So it will rapidly be able to recover that deficit. Currently, that deficit will be covered by the general fund from an advance, but it will be repaid by the time we get to 2027. Okay, so any questions?
What's driving that growth?
There was, some of that is economic growth, and there was, I believe it was tidal wave is the, yeah.
The
was it-
car wash.
Yeah, the car wash was not constructed when the TIF was created, and so that value was being able to be included in the TIF. And Dan, if you have anything to add to that or any other. Yeah. Thank you.
Nicola, I really appreciate the short notes,
Sure.
elevator speech for, it is
Hopefully it's a little
complicated to
helpful.
try to explain.
And then the rest are just, yeah, okay. Anybody with questions? And of course, we're looking at creating another TID, TID 10. And of course, since it's not created, we have no report. Right. And maybe amending the TID. All right, any other questions on? Okay. Then we will move on in our agenda. I believe that's the last of the reports that were in our packets. So now we'll move into the action portion of the agenda. The first is ordinance 2606, amending the official traffic map, restricting parking in the vicinity of the new fire station.
Thank you.
Howard.
We have the new fire station being completed at 100 West Adams. It will require parking restrictions to allow the apparatus to exit the facility on West Adams, entering the facility from West Lewis, and for the firefighters to respond to calls. So we have basically three different areas here. One is no parking on the north side of West Adams Street between North Court and North Elm Street to allow the apparatus to swing onto West Adams Street. And it will also allow vehicles on North Elm Street to have proper visibility of the apparatus leaving the station, and also improve visibility for traffic turning onto West Adams from North Chestnut. The section between North Court and North Chestnut would provide visibility and room for the command vehicles to exit the station and firefighters to respond to the calls. No parking on the south side of West Adams between Court and Chestnut. This will provide the visibility and room for the command vehicles and firefighters. No parking on the north side of West Lewis Street will allow for the apparatus returning from a call to swing to make the turn to return into their driveway. Prior to the construction of the fire station, there was no parking on the east side of North Court Street. This will be reinstated. We anticipate the activity from firefighter training and calls to require that additional space. No special action by the council is required. Also, there was a bus parking only on school days and an accessible parking stall on North Court Street. Those were there for OE Gray when it was a school, and those will no longer be needed. The ordinance would be effective September 8th. Any cost would be absorbed, and so I have maps and recommended ordinance for this.
Okay, questions?
Have our residents, they've been notified, and do they have any complaints about it, or?
I did not hear any complaints from any of the residents involved. They were
From what I remember, it wasn't
They were
a lot of,
contacted by mail. Yes.
right. It's, the change isn't that detrimental from what I remember in the last conversation.
Just the one or two stalls that are on Adams, east of Elm Street, is probably the biggest change.
Okay, any other questions or comments? If not, do I hear a motion?
To approve ordinance 26-06, an ordinance amending the official traffic map restricting parking in the vicinity of the fire station.
Second.
We have a motion by Lynn and a second by Steve to approve ordinance 2606. Greg will vote.
Maybe that works. Batcher,
Yes.
Cop,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
Wisnap,
Yes.
Parrot.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Our next action item then is ordinance 2607. This is repealing parking restrictions in the vicinity of the old fire station. Howard.
Yes, thank you. We have the new fire station that we just talked about, and in front of the current fire station, there are a pair of signs on the north side of East Main Street between 250 and 310 East Main that say no parking between the signs. These were installed to allow the apparatus to exit the current fire station to make that westbound turn. Once they've been relocated, this restriction will no longer be required. And so the only other thing is that the city attorney had some minor revisions. He put in a new whereas statement at the beginning and made a couple of cleanup things, but I think it's pretty much the same as what you saw last time. So staff recommends that we approve that ordinance.
Okay, questions on this?
The only question I guess I would have is timing. Is it, obviously we don't want this to go into effect until they've actually moved to the new facility. And I see you got September 8th on there.
Are we sure we're going to be moved by September 8th? We're going to be operating out of the new fire station. We know that.
As long as we're not
We have
waiting for
filters.
As long as we're not.
We have filters. We don't have a filter problem. Okay.
So if
Does
we're
that hurt,
not,
Bob?
So a question then, what if we don't make that deadline?
I was gonna say, yeah,
Do we have to come back and amend this? Is there a
No, we just
wording
amend
that we can do that'll be effective once the new fire station is officially opened and the equipment is moved out of there?
I don't know that there's necessarily a need for it, but if it makes you feel comfortable, then that's fine.
For me, it's not a question of being comfortable as if it would have to come back.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't-
the
I don't
legality. If
think
we
so.
have to, since we're saying it becomes effective on September 8th, if it can't become effective on September 8th, then Kathy is saying, do we have to amend it and say now it has to be effective on September 16th or whatever date?
I would,
The police chief has the authority to do temporary parking restrictions
I see it.
as needed.
See, right.
there we go.
So as far as I'm concerned, if the date needed to be delayed for a very short time, we hope that
Yes, the
the
police
chief would use
Okay,
his authority to do so.
Perfect.
Very good.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
Move to approve ordinance 2607, repealing parking restrictions in the vicinity of the old fire station.
I
Second,
Whoa.
You can
All
have
right,
it.
we have a motion and a chorus
You
for
can
a
have it.
second.
and of course.
Gotta move it up.
So motion by Brian, second by Kathy. Craig will vote.
Badger,
Yes.
Cop,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
Wisnap,
Yes.
Parrot.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, our next item on our action agenda is proposals to create TID 10, which we talked about a bit earlier. Not that we didn't have a report because we didn't have a TID 10, but it's time. Joe?
like to make that a report for next time.
Right.
So this would be a TID 10, which would be primarily created to support the Trailview development. Basically, it would provide the main financing mechanism to provide the streets and utility infrastructure and whatever other support we need for development to that area. It would be a mixed-use district, so it would be a combination of residential, commercial, industrial. Residential can not exceed more than 35% of the newly platted residential area, can't exceed 35% of the area. So it's primarily the Trailview development, but it includes other commercial industrial land. Basically, I included any vacant, underutilized parcels that I thought may be developed or could use some assistance, stormwater extensions, utility extensions, et cetera, in that area. So that's kind of how we came up with the tentative boundaries. Those will be finalized as we go through the process. But to actually create the district, we've requested proposals and received proposals from Ehlers Associates and Delta 3 Engineering. So it'll be kind of a combination effort. Ehlers will do obviously the financial analysis of the district, the projects in the district, do the main assembly of the project plan itself. Delta 3 will do the engineering analysis and all the mapping that would go as part of that. So Eller's proposal would be for $17,000 and Delta 3's proposal would be for $6,080. So the combination working together would create the district that we would like to have created. So any questions?
Questions?
I saw a date of September 30th. What do we get at September 30th? Is that the reports?
So that would be the date we would want to have the project plan submitted to the state. So it goes on the books for this year. So when it comes to you guys, you will have the draft project plan. We'll have all the documents and the maps and the financial analysis as part of that. So this is giving us approval to begin that process by hiring these two consultants.
And so we would anticipate some reports and additional information in August and September so that we were clear. This has to be submitted to the state by the end of September?
September 30th is the target deadline. And it's not critical, but it'd be preferred, because if we get it in by that date, then we have the base values based on the value of the properties of
On
January of this year.
Right.
Otherwise, it shifts to January of next year.
Yeah. Okay. Any other, we sometimes ask, these were not budgeted costs. So I'm going to be Kathy. I know the answer, but I think I know the answer. So how do we pay for this, Joe?
I just let Nicola figure that out.
Okay, Nicola, what tree?
The answer is the TID itself will pay for the costs. Now, there is a risk. I mean, if these expenses were paid, there is a joint review board. The joint review board is made up of a member from each of the taxing jurisdictions and a member of the public who happens to be in our audience tonight, and that's Troy. And if they were to deny the TIF, they have to approve the creation of TIF because, of course, as we talked about, the taxes generated on the new growth will go to the TIF. If they were to deny the creation of the TIF, then whatever was spent would then become a cost of the general fund. So there's a risk, but I don't know that our joint review board has ever denied a TIF. Generally speaking, if we can show that this is going to benefit all of the taxing jurisdictions by attracting, hopefully new development, which will ultimately generate new taxes and tax base for them, as well as hopefully jobs and people and so on. So we're optimistic about that.
Okay, so are there any other questions about this recommendation to hire Ehlers and Delta 3 in terms of working to create a tax increment district, which we'll call number 10? If not, I would take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve hiring Ehlers Ellers and Associates at a cost of $17,000 and Delta 3 Engineering at a cost of $6,080 to create tax increment district number 10.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Kathy and a second by Steve to move forward with hiring Ellers and Delta 3 to create TID 10. Craig will vote.
Badger,
Yes.
Cop,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
Wisnap,
Yes.
Parrot,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, next on our agenda is the strategic plan adoption. And it actually here says that Mark is going to talk about that, but I don't think Mark's going to talk about that. So does anyone want to talk about it? Nominate Joe. Joe, did you know you were
That's
getting
payback.
Payback.
Well, since Mark is not here, I guess somebody's got to do it. No, we've gone through this process from the beginning. It's intended to be the prime document to help the council make decisions come budget time and set policy decisions moving forward, at least for the near-term future. So we've gone through this document multiple times, so I'm hoping everybody's familiar with it enough to vote for it. Otherwise, Troy is here as well from regional planning to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, does anybody on council have questions? Otherwise, I'll thank staff for their input. And I know, having met with a couple of you recently, that you did some heavy lifting here in the end. So thank you for that. And if there are no questions, then I think I have to say that I did find a couple of grammatical things, but I decided not to mention.
That is the teacher in you.
No, I saw some, I did, so I was just looking like, but I'm not gonna say anything. 'cause
Right.
that's Our other person
All right.
needs to do that.
Okay,
So how about a motion, Steve?
I would make a motion that I move to adopt the 2026 to 2030 strategic plan as presented to council by the Southwestern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Steve and a second by Kathy to adopt our 2026 to 2030 strategic plan. We'll vote.
Badger,
Yes.
Cop,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
Wisnap,
Yes.
Parrot,
Yes.
motion carries.
And that's the end of our action agenda tonight. We'll move on now to information and discussion items. First, we have contract 1-26, the Jefferson Street reconstruction. And Howard, did you put more, or Dan put stuff at our table tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
We opened the bids for this project this morning, and so Dan scrambled and put together his letter and the bid tabulation here. This is for the CIP-approved Jefferson Street project between Cedar and Lewis. The bidding was delayed based on the uncertainties with East Main Street. And so now we have the bid opening in your packet or in the handouts. We had 4 bidders. Owens Excavating was the low bidder. They've done work for us in the past and done very well. It is under budget in both the water sewer side and the city side. So we'll be recommending that formally at the next meeting. If you've got any other questions, I can answer or Dan can answer.
Okay, questions on street reconstruction on Jefferson Street? And this will be on for action at the next meeting. And the recommendation is Owens Excavating, who, by the way, also did the excavation for the pool. They were I see Bob.
Fire station,
shaking his
yes,
head
and the pool
has done-
and all that
I
stuff.
don't know, maybe
yes.
did they do for the fire station too?
Yes.
Thought so. Okay. All right, that would be on for the action at the next meeting. Moving on to the next is the compliance maintenance annual report for 2025. Howard.
Yes, thank you. The compliance maintenance annual report is for last calendar year for our wastewater treatment plant. It's required to be submitted annually by June 30th. It's a self-report on the condition of our plant, the collection system, our personnel, and our financial and managerial capacity for the system. The plant is in excellent condition. We have an exceptional staff, both in the plant and in the office areas. Our system is graded A in all areas. And so I would be recommending the resolution. The Water and Sewer Commission will review this tomorrow at their scheduled meeting and make a formal recommendation to the council.
Questions on the CMAR? Otherwise, we'll see that at the next meeting for action. Next, information and discussion item is amendment to chapter 4.07 sidewalk cafe permit. Joe.
Yes, so sidewalk cafe permit allows businesses to have outdoor seating on the public sidewalk in the downtown area. And while we were going through a requested permit for the 1906 Tavern at 35 North 2nd Street, it was realized that the ordinance as it's currently written limits the sidewalk cafe permits to licensed restaurants, which the 1906 Tavern is not a licensed restaurant, so they weren't eligible. But as we're looking at the ordinance in more detail, specifically it says licensed under section 25.64, parent 1, parent A, Wisconsin statutes, which no longer exists. So at a minimum, we need to change the ordinance to remove that language. But as the Plan Commission was kind of reviewing this, it led to the bigger discussion. Basically, do we want to limit it to restaurants only, or can we expand it to other establishments, coffee shops that may not have food, ice cream shop, and bars and taverns in the case of 1906 that do not have a license as a restaurant. So the consensus of the Plan Commission was, yes, we should consider that change. So I did include some language to open it up to other businesses beyond just licensed restaurants. So that's what the language, most of the language changes that are proposed. There is one minor word that we're suggesting deleting on section 4. There's specifically the language that the cafes are restricted to the right-of-way immediately adjacent to the business, the building itself. And there was some concern that if that means that they can only have the tables right next to the building. In the case of 1906, the way the sidewalk kind of flares out, they had proposed putting it away from the building next to the curb. And this, at least, removing that word kind of gives them that option. It would still have to be approved by the city to put it in that location, but at least removing that word kind of gives them that option to put it in that location. So the Plan Commission is recommending approval, and this will be on for action at the next meeting. Any questions?
Questions? Steve?
Yeah, is there any reason why, are there any disadvantages to opening it up to, let's say, alcoholic establishments or anything of that nature? Or, I guess I'm wondering, was it in the discussion, are there, what's the flip side of not doing, of doing this? Is there a problem with that at all in any way?
Well, as I mentioned at the Plan Commission, I was here when this ordinance was adopted, but I didn't write it, and I don't recall exactly what the reasons it came about, if there was a specific business that requested it and it was not intended to include taverns at that time, or if he just copied somebody else's ordinance. I don't know how detailed the conversations were back at that time, but I don't know. I mean, personally, I mean, the police can speak in, but to me, I mean, if I'm sitting here having a burger and a beer, or if I'm just having a beer, I don't really see the difference or the impact on the community that's going to be.
I don't know of any, I'm just asking a
Yeah,
question.
so I don't know if the police has.
From a
certainty
law
on that.
enforcement standpoint, and the ability to enforce the laws, it becomes a little bit difficult when you're crossing a sidewalk into into an enclosed portion. It takes away the enclosure or the enclosed atmosphere of inside a bar. Now, I understand other bars have outdoor areas that are much larger, but also those areas are more conducive to that type of atmosphere, I guess, for lack of a better term. If we've got people that are, it becomes difficult for our officers who are downtown on Second Street to enforce up the street when someone's on the sidewalk with an open can or an open bottle. Whereas, you know, if they're up by Char Bar with an open bottle, we know it's clear they can't be outside without open intoxicant, right? If they're down by 1906 and they're walking across that sidewalk into the little enclosure, it becomes difficult to pick and choose who to reprimand or cite or, you know, discipline for that versus up the street. You know, so it's a give and take on how much we want to give and how much they'll take. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Can I add a little to that, please? It was discussed in pretty great detail. And one of the things that this ordinance requires is that service is limited to sitting at tables along the sidewalk. So there will not be getting around with open intoxicants. It'll just be the seated patrons. And
Does it- does it
just
say
5
that?
tables, like 2 persons per table in that area. And I also measured the distance from the facade of the building to the curb for the rest of the bars on that street. And this is really the only one that lends itself to something like this sidewalk cafe, because it was like 11 and a half and 13 and a half feet. And you sidewalk walkway in there. The other bars were all like 9 feet or less. Very few of them even have the space to put something like that out there. There are a few, I forget the names of them. I mean, the VFW, I mean, whatever. The ones
gym,
that have it are more
Yeah, the
enclosed
VFW,
corrals.
Red and Deb's,
Yeah,
Trail,
and they're either
Whiskey
behind the
Trail,
building or beside the building.
Public House.
But it shouldn't be an issue. And there's also a time restriction where it has to end. And if there's anything that, you know, happens after this is in effect,
Joe, does this ordinance actually say you have to be seated at a table?
Well, there's language in there. I mean, it still becomes a enforcement issue, but it does say that alcoholic beverages are sold and served by the licensee or licensee's employees only to patrons seated at tables in the sidewalk cafe. That's the language that he's.
In other words, you can't walk in
Can't buy a beer in the bar and carry it
and
to
then
the
carry it
to
out.
the area.
A staff person of the establishment has to literally bring it out and serve in that enclosed area.
That's
Correct?
what it says, but.
The other thing too is those other establishments, it's, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, are on, all those beer gardens per se are on their own private property.
And so you can go in and out, like
Right.
at the gym on the corner.
Right.
I mean, there's a fence around it. And you can, well, they have a bar outside and a bar inside, I think.
Seven Hills has a couple of tables outside.
Seven
It's a
Hills.
restaurant.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So
So they can have a sidewalk
they can have a
cafe.
side-
But I mean,
Yep.
the same thing happens there. They have to be served. They
So
can't
that's
go
what I want.
inside.
Yeah.
And if
order
that
and
person
go
were to
out.
get up and walk away with their beer in their hand, then, I mean, that's obvious, that's an obvious violation that we can
Okay.
enforce,
All
right?
right, that's just what I wanted to get to.
Yep.
Okay.
So do you think that this is address the concerns that you would have?
Somewhat, yeah. The 10 o'clock, That's the first, I think, that we've, unless you talked to Josh about it and I didn't know, which is,
Josh was at a license meeting,
Where we talked.
probably 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Whether the beverage license would apply to something like this, or they'd have to have that renewed. He's aware of the deadline also.
you know, it helps a little bit if there's a time, in my mind, I guess. And without overstepping my bounds with the chief, you know, I wouldn't want to say yay or nay, but, you know, it's difficult within that, before that 10 o'clock then to still enforce, you know, from a police standpoint. If those, in a perfect world, if our patrons are staying seated and not intoxicated or being overserved, then it works, right? And in my line of work, that doesn't always happen. So, being a realist.
I guess the beauty of a local ordinance is you can enact it and then you can repeal it, if need be.
Right.
So I think part of this will be a monitoring and an assessment as it goes by, and making sure that we do consult with our law enforcement. And I guess the other thing is I think that there's definitely a need for an education piece when a person, and I don't know, Craig, if that's you or not, but somebody's got to explain to these folks, the person cannot buy a drink and take it outside. That's just plainly illegal.
Yeah.
And that onus, a little bit of that onus, as long as we're clear, needs to be put on 1906, or all of them.
Any of them.
All of them.
Right, any of them that have a sidewalk
Absolutely.
cafe. But I
Right.
mean, somebody really needs to state, you have to have a server take it out. A patron cannot buy a drink at a bar and take it outside.
I wouldn't know that.
No.
I think 1906 will do that, and also the clientele is, Maybe
And
a
Bob,
little
I'm not worried about 1906. I'm worried about the fact that we're creating an ordinance and it's for anyone. And so we aren't creating an ordinance for 1906. We're creating an ordinance for everyone, and everyone may not be as compliant.
I do understand that, Barb,
Right.
but I also think it might alleviate anyone's stress if they realize that the other bars on that street really don't have the capacity for something like this.
Well,
I mean, measure it, and I did.
I understand what you're saying, but I also know we have a sidewalk cafe someplace that has their tables in a 2-foot space.
Yeah. And that, yeah.
So, I mean,
we do.
yeah.
And it's
So,
more of a daytime.
you know,
it's a
and,
daytime
I mean,
establishment, they close
right.
at 3.
And establishments aren't always owned by the same people forever. So, I mean, I think it's important that we understand that this is an ordinance for all. This isn't an ordinance for the current owner of a bar.
Right.
Right.
But like you said, it can be changed. I also think we don't want to be restrictive to the point where it, you know, shuts down businesses trying to do something.
I think it's reasonable to give it a shot.
Right.
See how it goes. It's the summertime. We don't have half the students. You know, if this thing starts to get out of hand, September, October, let us know.
Yep. Okay, any other questions on this? Then we'll move on to the next ordinance amendment, which is 22.11 and 25.05 on signage. Joe?
Yes, this is kind of a housekeeping measure more than anything. It kind of goes back to 2015. There was a U.S. Supreme Court decision that impacted the community's signage regulations. Basically, they said that we cannot regulate signage based on the content of those signs. So one of the justices at the time said if you got to read the sign to determine how the rules are put in effect, then your ordinance is probably illegal. So back at that time, we did review and revise our ordinance the Chapter 22 ordinance, which is in the city limits. 25 is the ET zoning, so that's the area immediately surrounding the city. So we did a lot of changes back at that time, but recently we had a resident that was asking about specifically the political campaign sign requirements in Chapter 25. I think they thought that applied to the city, but it's outside the city. But regardless, we did realize that that was an oversight back then, that should have been changed at that time, and we didn't do that. But while I was in there looking around, I was also reading some of the other language, primarily regarding temporary signs, and I think there's still some language in there in a couple spots where I'm proposing to remove them, where I think that as it's written, it would also be in violation of that decision. And so I'm recommending that we remove that language. And honestly, part of it also is just an enforcement measure. The language that no temporary sign may be erected for a period exceeding 2 weeks, so many days before and so many days after. I mean, I'm not going to figure out every time somebody's having a garage sale and figure out when they can put the sign up and when they can take the sign down. That's just not realistic. So I would rather not have language in our ordinance that we really can't enforce. So part of it's in response to the court decision, as part of it's just a more practical matter. So those would be sections of the ordinance that I would recommend we eliminate.
Can of worms, but how about the number of signs per lot on that temporary?
So we do,
26B.
I didn't include the whole ordinance, I just included the portion.
Yeah, I was just looking at 26B and it says 1.
Yeah, so we have, under our ordinance now, anybody can have up to 16 square feet of temporary signage, so that can be one sign or multiple little
okay.
signs.
Gotcha.
And,
Thank
you have businesses that put up the flag for a sale and then they take it down, and they put up a different one. So they tend to come and go, but there's always that ability to put some
Okay,
sign.
so that covers it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, do you have to renew the permit, or is it a one and done?
So
For the
we have for temporary signage,
For permanent
we
signs.
kind of have for temporary, we kind of have a standing that you can have 16 square feet without a permit. If you want to go above that, we have kind of temporary event signs where you can have as much as you want, and you just get a permit for that.
I was
As far as a permanent sign, yeah, is that you get the permit once to put the sign up, and then it's up.
where I was going with that is, you're pulling out the language, which makes sense of when a business is no longer there, you have to take the sign down, and that makes sense to me. But if you can't, if it violates the clause, then I see where you have to pull that out. So the second part of it would be perhaps having a sunset on signs where they have to renew the permit on some periodic basis to make sure, or it has to come down. Just a thought.
Yeah, I'm not sure how we would go about that, but I mean, really, it hasn't been an issue. I mean, usually it's the company will just cover it up or flip it over, or somebody else moves in and they put up a new sign. So the signs that have been hanging out there for a long time tend to go away.
Concern the community member had, Steve, I don't think you were on the council at the time, wasn't business signs. It was political signs.
Right.
And having the political signs stay up way after the election was over.
I recall the issue. Yeah, I'm just trying to address the first one because obviously they had verbiage in there for a reason. Tell me if it's not an issue.
It really hasn't been an issue over the years. Not enough that I think we would have to look into other alternatives.
As long as we're talking about those temporary, the small yard signs, what is the ordinance on those smaller signs being placed in the right of way?
So technically, those are illegal. Any signage in the right of way is supposed to be approved by the council.
So can we pull them if we see
I have pulled them.
Well, I mean, because the ones
Yeah.
I've seen aren't even, I mean, they're business, but they're not even Platteville businesses.
Yeah, I've pulled them on many occasions, yes.
So feel free.
Yeah, so feel free.
All right.
The ones that are hard to do is at the intersections where you don't have anywhere to park and you gotta hit a red light and run out and grab it and throw it in your truck and hop in before
Call
the light
ahead and
changes.
notify the PD, no problem. Okay, thank you.
All right, well, that's an exciting discussion there. All right, moving on. Now we have the, so that'll be on the agenda for action next time. Moving on, we have TID 9 boundary amendment.
Yes, and we actually did talk about this a little bit when we did the lot sale to LV Labs. We mentioned that, so they're currently in TID 6, which we can't no longer provide any incentives. It's beyond the expenditure period, so we'd like to move it into TID 9. So we're going to propose that we amend the boundary to include that. Well, as we were having the discussions, I know Dan and Abby at Paydick were having some conversations. They're like, well, we've got some other properties that have some development interest that are going to be in a similar situation where they don't have stormwater facilities present and they're going to have to be provided. So as long as we're going through the process of mending the boundary for, lot 47, let's look at a couple of these other properties that are kind of in the similar situation and do the boundary amendment at the same time. So that's what we're proposing to do in addition to the lot 47. I included a map that shows the additional, so there'd be 5 parcels total that we're looking to include in TID.
Howard, did you project it? Who projected it? So thank you. Thank you, Jody. So is lot 47 in or out? Out of TID 9?
It's currently in TID 6, so we'd like to add it to TID 9.
To TID 9.
Actually, I think all of the parcels that are included in there are a similar situation. They're currently in TID 6 that we would be adding to TID 9 instead. I think.
Questions? Otherwise, this too will be added to our agenda for action at the next meeting. And that brings us to the end of our agenda, I believe. And so I believe I need one more motion. Is that right, Craig?
I would make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Steve and a second by Brian that we adjourn. Craig will vote.
Badger,
Yes.
Cop,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
Wisnat,
Yes.
Parrot.
Yes.
Motion carries.